the injuries, everybody will practice today, so we're good there. If anybody was going to ask about Britt's situation, it's best that I just leave that in the lawyer's hands, so I'm not going to go talk about that. I will talk about Arizona. We look forward to the challenge of playing them. We know they're a good football team. They started off undefeated for the first 7 games, I believe, last year. So they start fast, and they've got a heck of an offense and defense, good coaches. Their special teams are rock solid. So we've got to make sure that we prepare. And early in the season, there's not a whole lot of scouting report on them other than the year before. So, and a little bit what you show in the preseason game. So you've got to really stay disciplined with what you do and execute on both sides of the ball and special teams. So with that, time's yours.
Coach, is there an excitement to get a season started, looking at a young secondary, looking at some new receivers? I mean, are you excited just to get this baby going?
Yeah, I am. We're coming off a week here where we just practiced, and so you look forward to getting started, and we've got a good opponent to do that against, which it's even better. So it's a great challenge, and then we're playing at their place where it's loud. So you got to, but at the same time, when you're jumping out of your shoes, you've got to make sure you calm the storm where you can execute at the best of your ability. So you can get high, just not too high, right? You get too high, and then you start doing things that aren't the right things.
What are some of your biggest challenges that you're going to face in this game? Obviously, Kyler Murray, stature of him as a quarterback, obviously they're not going to have DeAndre Hopkins. So what kind of challenges do you see with other players that are going to be stepping up that you might not expect?
Yeah, well, they've got a good stable of wide receivers there, and a good runners, good tight ends. So it's they drafted one this year that's a heck of a player. So they've got good football players, and they're solid up front. Defensively, JJ's healthy, so you add him into the mix. With 44, who's dynamite 9. I mean, you can go through, and Buda Baker's. I feel like he's been doing this forever, and he's still flying around like a wild man. So it's there's 25. I mean, they're fully loaded on that defensive side. So we've got to make sure that on both sides of the ball that we execute. It'd be very important.
Can you talk about Kyler Murray and the problems he can pose to a defense?
Yeah, well, he's smart, and he knows how to execute that offense. So he, and then you add on the physical part of it, where he's tremendously quick, and at the same time, he's got that arm that is potent, so he can put it anywhere, anytime, and. So, he's a good football player.
Andy, I imagine you got to know Cliff a bit as you were checking out Patrick, and I wonder if you have any particular recollection about what Cliff conveyed to you about Patrick as you were exploring that.
Well, obviously they're close, and Cliff's a tremendous guy, and I think he's a heck of a football coach. Arizona's lucky to have him in that capacity there, and he does a great job with the offensive side of the football. So he loved Patrick, and he thought he'd be a great professional football player. Even though maybe the offense was different, but you're seeing his offense now be very, very successful, and you're seeing Patrick also be very successful. So but at that time it was kind of new to the NFL, and all coaches thought that you'd have this big change, when you really didn't need that. So
You maybe didn't need Cliff's input exactly on Patrick, I guess, but did it help? I mean,
Oh no, absolutely, yeah, no, he was great with it. Yeah, no, and I respect his input. So it was one of the reasons that we went after Patrick as hard as we did.
What did he tell you?
Told me he's good. Told me he's good. Told me he could answer all Adam's questions.
Andy, I suppose the answer I'm going to get is similar to the answer that you give for coming off of a bye, but you're 8-1 in openers here and 5-0 on the road.
Mm.
How does that happen? Is there any?
Yeah, listen, I don't know. Wish we wouldn't have had the one in there. I mean, you know, that's the deal. I don't know that. Right now, I mean, I appreciate the question, but I don't care about that right now. And just if we can just go execute, I'll, you know, do the best we can for this time of the year. I'll be happy with it.
Sorry, Coach, if I could take you back to last year, can you explain just your expectations for what that offensive line was entering their first real game action together and what the expectation is now?
Yeah, so they're a full season into playing together. Back then, it was new communication. We were learning it, and that group, as you know, has to be dancing the same dance at all times. And when one of them's out of whack, then there's a problem. So, but they worked through all of that stuff, and I thought did a nice job throughout the season growing together. And then now they're all back and have another chance to go at it. So this will be a good challenge for us right there.
Is there anything you can take from that experience last year and somewhat translate it over to a new wide receiver group, you know, minus McCole?
A little different, spread out. You still have to work together, but you're in space doing it. Those guys are right there, man. That's a different world. None of us are born in a three-point stance and all of that, right? So, of course, we're not born running either, but we get there. We get there.
Coach, you guys you work obviously all off season to get ready with the new guys you have here, but this is your first time going out in a real game without having Tyreek on the team in a while. Is there some mystery to it, some apprehension, whatever? I mean, what's the feeling going in there with the group you have now into a real game where they'll play the whole 4 quarters?
Yeah, listen, we do have new bodies in there, but most of these guys have played, and the new kids, I think they're feeding off of the old guys. And you know, on the other side of that, we're all pulling for Tyreek to have a great year too. So, but these guys have done a nice job of working with Pat. They spent a lot of time in the off season with him, and they have played in games. That would be the one positive on that.
You started to see like a full game though, because you just get little bits and pieces in
Yeah,
practice
sure.
and all
Yeah.
that stuff. So
Oh, absolutely. You know, look forward to seeing everybody, right? Everybody play together for a full game. You just get a taste of it during preseason. So, and there are things that go on with the wide receivers because you got a lot of moving parts in there. With guys subbing in and subbing out and doing that for 4 quarters is, again, that's a good challenge.
Coach, following up on that, obviously you got a slew of new players, 9 rookies on the team, and new players that you signed either via free agency or what have you. Looking at where you all have been the last 4 seasons, you're going to start the season where you hope to end. What's your message to all your players who may not have been in this type of situation that you've been in the last 4 years? What's your message going into the season?
Yeah, well, we talk all the way through about just the speed of the game. So every phase that we've had in the offseason is a little bit faster than the phase before. And then that is the same thing with the preseason games as opposed to a regular season game. I mean, this is going to be fast. It's going to be loud, and you've got to be able to block things out and focus. And you got to be able to do it for 4 quarters. And so, but the experience will help them. But as far as they can prepare, they've worked on that.
Coach, as folks have kind of mentioned, this is a new experience for Pat, new personnel. As you look back at the 8 months since the AFC title game, how have you seen Patrick just ensure that this operation isn't going to slow down, not skip a beat?
Well, when we lost the receivers that we lost, he was excited, first of all, to get the new guys in. Who is he going to have here? So, and then to take it and run with it once we signed him, and literally take him to where he lives and get going. And so, and again, we wish all those guys the best. I think our whole team would tell you that played with the guys that we had here. I mean, they're tremendous, and we're hoping for the best in their new places. So, but he was very excited to get him in and get him going. So, and that's what he did.
couple more.
Andy, do you sense that the season opener is more of an educational game than any of the others? I guess, is there mystery still even for you for where you guys are? Do you feel like you guys have a pretty good idea of where you're at?
Well, yeah, listen, I would tell you have an idea, but you don't know. I mean, you don't know till you get in there and go. And every week tells you kind of a new story, and are you going to continue to progress? Where do you plateau if you plateau? And do you take some dips there? How you handle those? So that's what seasons present you, and you've got to work through all that. And if you haven't gone through it with some guys, or the chemistry of all the guys together working, how's that going to take place? Well, we'll see. That's what's so unique about it. It's every year is a little bit different on how they go about it, and you're excited for that part to see how it all unfolds.
We got 3 more, we'll start back.
Yep. You got it.
How do you manage with so many young guys and kind of a lack of experience? There could be some mistakes that are made, but they're also going to be out there making plays. Just how do you manage those?
Yeah, so we're here to teach as coaches, and we know, even with veteran players, there are mistakes. So the thing is that you learn from it as a player, and as a coach you teach and help them not make that same mistake again. And you want them to play full speed. You want them to go. If you're going to make a mistake, do it 100 miles an hour. So, and then let's learn from it and get back in and go 100 miles an hour the next play.
Last 2. Coach, Tim Grunhard said something last night on the radio. It was really interesting. He was talking about some of the guys like Creed Humphrey and Trey who had such great rookie years. He said he thought the sophomore year, the second year, was harder for him and for a lot of people. He says the first year you're on adrenaline. The second year, he said, I don't think I played as well. Do you see that? Is that true?
Yeah, so what happens is you give these coaches, these great minds on the defensive side, time to study you and find out what your weakness is. And then they're going to come out, they're going to attack that. You only have a few games to get that, to get where you want to go. So it's different than baseball or basketball. So these guys get together and they're going to come out and present. And then you're going to rise, you're going to sink. You gotta be strong mentally and prepare yourself for it. Yeah.
Last one.
Coach Spags and EB both said in preseason how much you've evolved as a coach. Going into this season, how much with that evolution of yourself does that identity within yourself take on, as your team?
Yeah, I'm old is what they're saying, right? Or I put weight on. I mean, it's one of the two. I don't know. I don't know. You can ask them, but I love what I'm doing. Those guys, I rely on them a lot, and the other coaches, they do a great job. I mean, EB's been with me since he was a player, and now as a coach, and I want to kick him out of here, but get him where he needs to be, as a head coach. But at the same time, I mean, there's a familiarity there. So, and that really with that staff. So, and then defensively, I've known Spags since we coached in college, and it's there's a trust there in all those guys, and Spags and his staff. So.